This is Amelia Earhart, one of the greatest aviators in history. Let's take a peek into her remarkable journey through the skies. Born in 1897, Amelia's liking for adventure was clear from a young age. While she didn't immediately look to flying, she had a joy for playing with her sister, Grace, and adventuring outdoors, which was not at all how young ladies conducted themselves at the time. They had an active life outdoors and spent most of their time catching bugs and other insects. She had developed a love of an outdoor life at an early age. Just at 7 years old, she had decided to make a homemade roller coaster attached to her tool shed. In the end, she inevitably ended up with a bleeding lip and a ripped dress, but it didn't frighten her one bit. On Amelia's 10th birthday, her father took her to be face-to-face with a real plane. Her father attempted to get her on the plane, but she refused, saying, "It's a thing of rusty wood and wire and not at all interesting." How ironic is that? When Amelia was in her teens, she went to see her friend Lillian at a fair in Toronto. A plane there flew very low to the ground, and as everybody else moved away in fright, Amelia stood her ground. Looking back on that moment later on, she felt as if that called her for a career in aviation. To add on to that, on December 28, 1920, Amelia had her first real flight. It only lasted 10 minutes, but it changed her life forever. "By the time I got 200 or 300 feet off the ground, I knew I had to fly," she quoted later on. Now, with her seemingly far-fetched dream in place, World War I was just starting, and Amelia would gasp at the horror of the injured and amputated men coming back from war. She then voluntarily became a nurse at the age of 23. But just a year later, she was treating patients with the Spanish flu when she herself was diagnosed with pneumonia and other health problems. This led to a lengthy stay in the hospital and her sister's house. And there, while she had downtime, she read a lot, especially about mechanical engineering, a great pilot in the making. Amelia was set on becoming a pilot and was working lots of jobs at once trying to save up enough money for lessons. And when she had enough, she was gifted her first plane by her father, which cost $2,000, and that was a crazy amount in that day and age. She began training rigorously for hours on end. She cut her hair short as not to attract too much attention from the male pilots. She even slept with her leather flight jacket on to make it look worn out, like all the men's jackets. In short, she became a pilot, and a good one at that. By the time she was 25, she broke a world record for flying at an altitude of 14,000 feet. Then, just a year later, she got her pilot's license, which only 14 other women on Earth can say they've earned one too. This is an incredible feat. In 1927, famous Charles Lindbergh became the first person to fly solo across the Atlantic. Amelia saw this and probably said to herself, "I want to do that." But first, the people wanted to see a woman doing the same trip as a passenger first. The community finally came up with a decision. They would take Amelia Earhart on the trip. On June 28, 1928, Amelia boarded the plane with pilots Wilmer Schultz and Phil Noonan on board. Wilmer was going to get paid $20,000 for this flight, Phil $2,000, and Amelia some recognition from the public at most. Together, they did the trip, and Earhart found herself something short of a celebrity. But when they landed, her face did not seem happy. She quoted after, "I was baggage being dragged around like a sack of potatoes. Maybe someday I'll try it alone." Now, as we fast forward, she has become a household name. She got married, she promoted aviation, especially for women, and she became the first woman to fly across North America and back, among other records that she set. Then, importantly, in 1932, she did exactly what Mr. Lindbergh did: fly across the Atlantic. She now had become even more of a celebrity, and even a favorite friend of First Lady Eleanor Roosevelt. But her job wasn't done. Amelia wanted to be the first woman to ever circumnavigate the globe, and this is where things go dark. On March 17, 1937, she made her first attempt, alongside navigator Phil Noonan and navigator Harry Manning, who was a skilled navigator but also an expert at operating a radio. In this attempt, the plane eventually had technical problems, and they abandoned the mission. For the second go-around, Harry Manning had refused to go, which was crucial. He felt too many things had gone wrong the first time, and that judgment most likely saved his life. Anyway, Amelia was now without a skilled radio operator and took off from Miami on June 1st of that year, and took fuel stops in South America, Africa, Central Asia, and eventually Lae, New Guinea. By that point, Amelia and Phil had traveled approximately 22,000 miles and had circumnavigated most of the globe and only had a little more left to go. They would stop at Howland Island, right in between Hawaii and Australia. There was a US-owned landing strip there for Amelia and Phil to refuel. But during that flight, the skies were thick with clouds, and it wasn't a good day for flying. On the way, they had radio problems, and the U.S. Coast Guard cutter, the Itasca, had finally lost signal to it. It was gone, and Amelia never to be seen again. This is, of course, a tragic end to an illustrious life. Amelia Earhart is known by most as one of the greatest female pilots in history and made a giant influence in the generation of female aviators.
Thanks for watching.